This is The Express with Gary Allen, your 360-degree view of the world. Now, here's your host, Gary Allen.
And a good evening to all of you, and thank you so much for joining us here tonight on this edition of The Express. I hope everyone's had a wonderful week since last week. Baseball season is just around the corner, and I'm excited. And yes, indeed, this is Gary Allen on The Express. We've got an exciting show for you tonight. My guest will be joining us in just a little bit. Just a quick reminder, if you want to keep up with me, because I'm going to have a special announcement coming on Facebook this weekend. You can go to Gary Allen, A-L-A-N. You can also go to youtube.com. Listen to any of my past shows, Gary Allen, The Express. As well as on Thursday night at 7 p.m., this program will be repeating itself on diversitybroadcastnetwork.com. And you can go to progressivevoices.com, their demand channel, as well as one of their other apps. And I do have, like I said, some exciting news to share with all of you, but I won't be able to do that until this weekend. So I'm excited about that and excited about tonight's program in particular. We have a very exciting young lady to be joining us. Since 1990, voiceover casting director and founder of Voice Casting, Mary Lynn Wissner, and I hope I have that right, has cast the voices for thousands and thousands of TV, radio, animation, film, games, e-learning, and audiobook productions. Voice casting has earned the respect of producers all over the country and abroad. Producers and seekers of voices know that with one phone call or email, they will speak directly with an award-winning casting director, Mary Lou Wissner, and she will get the right voice for the right project. And I must say, I've only known the young lady for a short period of time, but she tells it just the way it is. So if you're thinking about a career in voiceover work, this is the place to be tonight, because honesty is the best policy on this show. Mary Lynn, welcome to The Express, and thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day to join us. Mary Lynn, are you there? EW, did we lose her already?
I don't think so. It shows her there, but we can try calling her back 1 second if you give me a moment. I don't know what exactly happened, but you know, these.
No, I'll just wing it. Things are going well here.
Thank you for calling Voices Voice Casting. Please leave your.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Well, all right. Well, she'll call back, I'm sure, or we'll try it in just a couple of minutes. Baseball season is right around the corner. I'm excited about that, although my Phillies are predicted to probably finish last in the East. Tim Tebow, for you Mets fans, is probably going to be sent to the minors. For you Orlando, for you Oakland Raider fans, you're probably a little disappointed. Your Raiders are going to be moving to Las Vegas. However, that's not going to occur for at least another couple of years as they build a stadium in Las Vegas. I'll be honest with you, I really have my doubts about this one. Ah, there she is. That's it.
Yeah, I could hear you guys. I was just calling back, but I think I got a machine or something.
Well, that's
anyway,
all right.
I could hear you.
That's okay.
Hi.
This is a live radio, so we were talking for a minute. I just want to finish this thought. I don't know how pro football is going to make it in Las Vegas. Too many dangerous points. I lived there for 10 years, so only time will tell. But Raider fans, don't worry. You got 3 more years of your Raiders in Oakland. And Mary Lynn lives in a town where the Rams used to be years ago when I was a kid, and my brother played for the Colts. But now the Rams are back, along with, now I guess, the L.A. Chargers as well. How do you guys feel out there, Mary Lynn, before we get into the voiceover stuff, about 2 professional football teams?
I think we feel good.
Okay, Mary Lynn is like, oh, I'm not sure. What are we talking about?
I'm kind of a football fan, but I think I'm more of a baseball fan.
Oh, wait a minute. You grew up in California, right?
Yes.
All right, let's see here.
In L.A.
Okay. Well, I lived in L.A., as you know, for a lot of years. You know, my first place I lived in was right there by the Magic Castle. Then I moved over to Melrose, where I used to be able to go to the Groundlings, where I was a member for 2.5 years, and then I could go to the comedy clubs and do some stand-up. So you got to be a Dodger fan.
Oh, major.
Do you know, I used to go there, and the Dodger dogs were great, but I would only go there when either the Cubs were in town or my Phillies were in town. And but the biggest disappointment, though, as a Dodger, as a person who lived there, was meeting Tommy Lasorda. I always heard what a nice guy he was, and boy, he was just mean and crass when I met him. He just it was he just yeah, and it was a friend of mine introduced me to him, a well-known actor that I will not mention a name, and he was just in a grouchy mood.
Maybe you caught him on a bad day, or he was hungry or something.
Well, yeah, the Phillies did kind of beat up on him, so I mean, it has something to do with it. Mary Lynn, when you were in college, you were in front of the camera, and then was it a conscious decision that, you know, this front of the camera stuff is okay, but I really would prefer to be behind the camera? What was the decision process? Because I'll be honest with you, being the ham that I am, I love being in front of the camera and behind the microphone, but I'm more comfortable behind the microphone.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the business. My father was a TV producer, and so I was very comfortable. And when I was 16, I wanted to start doing, you know, TV work and commercials, and I mostly just kind of did it for the money and the you know, I had a very all-American look, which was very in then, and
yes, you do.
And I did it, you know, to help pay for college, but I knew I never really wanted to be a full-blown actress. I did it for the fun. And I did very well at it, and it was just, it paid for college. I had a great time, but my degree was in broadcast journalism, and I actually really wanted to be a news reporter. I wanted to, you know, kind of, you know, be the next Diane Sawyer or something. But when I graduated, it was really hard for me to get a job. I couldn't find a job.
Really?
And then or the jobs that I got offered were not really, you know, in the cities I wanted to be, or the kind of money I thought I should be making. And
that's true.
You know,
a lot of a lot of kids graduate, because I have my degree in broadcast journalism from the U. Even though I went to UCLA for a while, but a lot of kids have this opinion that if they live in LA or New York, that's where they're going to get their first job, and that's generally not true.
Yeah, it's pretty, you know, it was tough. So anyway, I got a job. I saw an ad in the Hollywood Reporter for an assistant agent, and I thought, well, I could do that. I've had agents. I know what that relationship, I had no idea it was for voiceover, and it turns out it was to be the assistant to Don Pitts, who at that time was sort of the godfather of voiceover agenting. And so he taught me everything about voiceovers, and we, you know, our clients were the A-list of voiceover at the time. Yeah. And so and I fell in love with the whole industry. So I gave up on camera, of course. And later, you know, I got into doing voiceovers myself. So I still kept my union card active, but and then got into casting, you know, a couple of years after I was an agent, and have been in casting ever since.
Right. Talk about how it's changed. Voice casting. We're going to get into the coaching and what you guys do at Voicecasters and stuff like that, and the ups and downs of the Voices Voicecasters.
Voicecasters, another company. Yeah.
Oh, it is now. Okay, all right. But what I want to talk about is how it's changed. When I used to go on castings, you'd actually go to the agent's office and audition. Now, everybody has a homemade studio, and I guess it's you know, they do it from their studio at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you still can go to your agent's office. I mean, some agencies still like when you go into their office and they can have one of their booth directors direct you. But most agents, you know, prefer, you know, that you also have a home studio. And because of the internet now, you know, there's so much more work you can get, and you don't have to be in LA or New York or Chicago. Right. You know, so you can have quite a voiceover career, you know, living in Omaha or something. So it's totally changed because of the internet. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, when I started, we didn't have the internet. You know. No. As a matter of fact, you were either in L.A., New York, Chicago, or even in Miami, because my nephew got the voice of Aladdin, and he was living in Hollywood, Florida. So, you know, Scotty was very lucky in that sense. And he's often said if the casting was done today, there was no way in heck the little kid from Hollywood, Florida is going to get the voice of Aladdin. So, but also, too, with the advent of homemade studios, in a way, it kind of has taken some of the
casting out of it to a certain extent. Now it goes directly to the client, doesn't it, in some cases?
Well, there's different avenues, a client can go to get casting. It used to be, going to a casting director like myself was the only way, and it still is the best way because you're getting, that hands-on, one-on-one attention, and most advertising agencies that have big campaigns still prefer to do that. But now there's, online casting sites where voiceover talent, doesn't matter how experienced you are or not, can pay a subscription fee and be on this casting site and have an opportunity to audition for things. So that took a lot of work away from casting directors, legit casting directors, out there. But it kind of comes back. I mean, I have many clients that have tried that and didn't like it and came back, or depending on their budgets, they that dictates a lot of where they go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's start at the basic, because I the premise for this when I set this program up on Facebook was the fact that, if this is a career you're thinking about getting involved in, or this is something you might want to get involved in, or you're just in the beginning parts of your career, you're just at the first couple of steps, just because someone has a good voice. And you and I have talked about this before, because I've done my fair share of voiceover work. I'm not Randy Thomas, but I've done my fair share of voiceover work. Just because you have a good voice and you've got some equipment doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a success in the voiceover business. Talk about what it really takes, the kind of skills and chops that you really need to get there.
You have to be a good actor first. I've heard hundreds and hundreds of people over the years who have really beautiful voices, but they can't act. And then it just sounds like they're reading a script. People think voiceovers are really easy. Oh, you just read the script. You just read into a microphone. Well, it's not reading. It's creating a scene. It's, creating a moment, and the listener has to feel as if they're sort of eavesdropping on a little snippet of your life. Right, and that's very difficult to do. Yes. So the first thing I always tell people is, if you're interested in doing voiceover, you might have this great voice and everybody's told you your whole life you have a great voice. But the first thing you should always do is go take some acting classes, improv classes, and then, see if you can do it.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was doing voiceovers before I was with the Groundlings, but I noticed that being with the Groundlings, it improved my ability to really think on my feet quickly and to take a look at a script and to understand. Now, I was lucky. I had very, very good teachers at the Groundlings, and I was doing some stand-up comedy too, and I was doing Hill Street Blues and St. Elsewhere, so maybe all of that kind of came together. But again, let's get back to if you're living in the middle of nowhere and there's no acting schools anywhere for you to go to, what do you recommend for somebody that's living in a small town in the middle of America, and maybe the largest town is 25, 30 miles away, and this is something they want to do? Are there any online classes? I know I believe you teach some online classes, do you not?
Yeah, there's a few things you can do. I've noticed, because I teach privately, and I teach people all over the world, actually, coach them in voiceover. And pretty much anywhere you live, there's a community college or a community theater. And so there's ways you can get started in acting there. I mean, even if you go take a one weekend on-camera commercial class, all that really does help your voiceover. And then there are some online acting, improv for voiceover type classes. You have to kind of look around. I know there's like Edge Studio, I think, has like a beginning one. And then we do online like Zoom sessions. We've got one coming up with Scott Parkin, who's probably like the number one booker right now as far as the Real Guy read, which is very popular. And he's a great improv actor and does a ton of on-camera as well. And he's a really great coach. And so anybody who doesn't live in LA, they can, sign up for the class, and he's really entertaining too, so it's fun. So there's opportunities like that. You just have to kind of, once you immerse yourself in the voiceover world, you kind of get to know who the people are, who the players are, where the good
Mm-hmm.
schools are, good, classes are, and, demo producers and things like that. So if it's something you really want to do, you kind of have to start getting into, voiceover groups, whether it be on Facebook or meetup groups, and then you'll start to learn about some other, some good classes and training and studios and such.
We're talking to Mary Lynn Wissner from Voices Voice Casting. For anybody out there that's interested in getting in the voiceover field, by the way, I do recommend that even if you're not interested in getting into the voiceover world, taking a voiceover class can help you if you do lectures, if you do any kind of speeches at all, Mary Lynn, because it helps you put a little bit of feeling into what is generally, if you've gone to any of these dinners where somebody gives a speech, it's kind of dry. If you have a little bit of training in theater of some kind or voiceover training, it kind of adds a little something special, a nice little special quality to your presentation. And I've always said that, a little bit of acting training never hurt anybody who has to give presentations on a regular basis.
Yeah, I've actually, my last name is Wissner, not Wissner.
Oh, Wissner. Oh, I'm sorry, Wissner.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. That's
I'm
all right.
sorry.
No worries. I've actually had like many lawyers come through my workshops. Every once in a while I'll get a lawyer or two in there who's not really wanting to be a voice actor, but maybe they're trial attorneys and they want to know how to be effective, with speech and adding character to a read or being, persuasive and things like that. I've had a few ministers come in.
Really?
So it's really interesting. And, the voice actually is the most, I think, in human nature, is kind of one of the most vulnerable parts of our psyche, and you can really tell what's going on with somebody. My ear is so trained because I've been doing this so long. I can get somebody in the booth and I know, they've had a bad day, or they're really happy about something, or they're just struggling because they didn't get enough sleep. There's things you can hear in somebody's voice and in the way they're speaking and communicating that really does, reveal itself when you just are focusing on the voice.
Let's kind of go back a little bit, Mary Lynn, and talk about the hard work. A lot of people, as you said earlier, they just think, you go in, you read a script, boom, 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 you collect the check, and you go home. No. It's a 24/7 business. When you get yourself involved, anything in show business, by the way, is a 24/7 thing. I keep a pad and a piece of paper by my bed, and I often get up at 2 o'clock in the morning thinking, even though I have to be at the radio station very early, and a question will come up, and I'll write it down. For actors, I know that they don't turn it off necessarily. Voice actors don't. J.J. Wilson, who's a good friend of mine, Rock Bordenoff, who's out there in L.A., Randy Thomas, they don't turn it off. They're constantly practicing, rehearsing, and during the day, they're auditioning. Talk about the hardships of the business, and it's not easy to get going.
No, it's not a hobby. That's the way I tell actors to think about it, because first place, it's kind of expensive to get started too. You need to take classes and coaching, and maybe a year or so of that, and then if you're good, then you go take more coaching on, because maybe not just commercials, maybe you want to do animation and video games, or maybe you want to do promos or movie trailers or audio books or whatever. See, there's a lot of training beforehand. Then you have to invest in your demos, which is like, an on-camera actor would have a headshot. Voiceover actors need demos. So you would have a commercial demo, an audiobook demo, and so on. And then you have to try and get an agent. And getting an agent now is very difficult. An agent helps you get the work, but you can still get work without an agent. I mean, because of the internet now, like I said earlier, there's a lot of opportunities. But at the same time, because of the internet, it's made the market really saturated. So there's lots of people that, plug a microphone into a computer and say, I'm a voice actor. And they might do 1 or 2 jobs a year and maybe paid for that, microphone. But you can't make a living doing that. It's a lot of marketing. You kind of have to be your own agent. You have to do a lot of marketing. There's some really great conventions out there that you can go to and, learn and meet people that, are decision makers and so on, or glean information from people that are experts in various fields in the voiceover world. But it's not a career that is easy at all, and it shouldn't be taken lightly. You have to study it. You have to market yourself. It's a business, and the only way you will succeed at it is if you treat it as though it's a business.
Yeah. And you also have to have thick skin and be prepared to hear the word no a lot. Or audition. I mean, I was talking recently with my friend J.J. Wilson, who must audition 40 and 50 times a day, and maybe he'll get one, maybe two jobs here or there. And then the other sad part about it is sometimes the clients don't pay for 6 or 7 months.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of extreme. I think most of the time, well, depending if it's a union job or a non-union job. If it's a union job, you're protected and you get paid quicker. But, so many people are doing non-union work, and there is a lot of work non-union. And sometimes those jobs can take 60, 90 days or more. 6 months, I don't hear that often, but sure, I mean, it could happen,
Oh, yeah, there's advertising agencies here in Florida that I used to do voice work for, and I'd be waiting 45, 50 days to get a check, and even then sometimes I wouldn't get it. I walked away from it because I frankly just don't want to spend 24/7 sitting in front of a computer or in front of a phone or something and waiting for auditions to come in from different companies. My voice is okay, but it's nothing special. And I've done all sorts of voiceovers. I've done animation. I've done games. I've done commercials. I've done, you name it. Animation is my favorite thing to do. But, for me, I like doing this. I like interviewing people, and I like to find out what makes them tick. What are some of the skill sets that someone needs to think about as they're approaching this as a possible career for themselves? What are the basic things that someone needs to do before they buy the microphone, before they call you up or anybody else? What do they need to surely and solidly think about their own skills?
Well, I think, business skills is one thing. Like, can you afford to do that? Because you do need to set time aside every day to practice, to audition. And then hopefully, when you book the job to set up time to record those jobs. And then the skills, the acting skills, that's paramount. I mean, you need to have those acting chops, because here's the thing. You could maybe take one workshop and think, okay, I'm ready to go, and spend $2,000 on a demo, and you send it out to an agent. But I promise you, the first thing an agent's going to say is, well, where did you study? Who'd you study with? And if you say, well, I took one class, it was a weekend class, and the first thing they'll say is, you're not ready, go take more classes. And you take more classes, and you study with more coaches out there, and you realize, all the coulda, woulda, shoulda things that you didn't even know you could do. And, then you've wasted all that money on a demo, and you kind of only get one shot when it comes to an agent sometimes.
Yep.
So, you don't want to make that demo until you're 100%, ready. You don't want to, put yourself out there with that demo until you can replicate everything that you did on that demo at an agent meeting. So your skills have to be top notch. And like I said earlier, you really need to treat it as a business. If this is what you want to do, you set up your home studio and you make your business cards, you make a website, the whole thing. So it's just like if you were going to open up a dress shop and, you have the look and the logo and all of that. It's still a business. Sometimes people don't think that it's a business because it's just my voice. Well, that voice is going to make you money, so you have to treat it as such. I hope that.
How many people approach you and your company at Voicecaster every week? I mean, how many people come through the door or call you on the phone, and how many do you just say, no, you don't have it. You don't got it. By the way, I want to say hello to Randy Jones out there. He's one of our loyal listeners, and I've been meaning to say hello. Randy, thank you so much.
Hi, Randy.
Yeah.
I get emails. Well, let's see. That's a good question because it's sort of changed a little bit. But I get demo submissions at probably at a minimum, say 12 or 15 a day.
Really?
And most of the time, some people are, I gotta say people are much more trained than they were a few years ago. And I think that's probably due to the internet. There's more ways to work and get training than there were a few years ago. But, you sometimes, I've had to tell people, I can't take your money. I just can't. You're not going to, you just don't have it. It's just not there. You're not going to get, you might get one booking. I believe everybody could do at least one booking, but that doesn't mean that you can't make a career out of that, and, you have to be able to act and interpret that copy. I've worked with students all the time, who sign up to have coaching with me. And, after one or two sessions, first, I can't in good conscience continue to coach them when I know there's just no hope unless they go take those acting classes. And if they come back after they've taken acting classes and I haven't heard a change, I'm just very honest. And of course, it's very subjective, but I like to think that being in this business 30 years, I do know what I'm talking about. And I have, proven experience. So, but it's pretty regular. But I kind of think there isn't as much of an excuse not to try and be good at it as there was, 5 to 10 years ago.
When I first got started, when I was in college and I was interning at a radio station and a gentleman would come in all the time to do voiceover work, I said, what's the best way for me to train myself? He said, read. Just read. Read until you're sick of reading. Well, I happen to like to read anyway, but just read until you're sick of reading. Now, unfortunately, I do suffer from a little dyslexia, so that sometimes plays havoc. Let's talk about the process. Now, you've taken some voice lessons. You've taken some acting lessons. Now you're ready to put together a demo. Is it necessary, excuse me, to have a different demo producer for whatever it is you feel, if you're going to do a hard sell, soft sell, a narration, animation, trailers? I mean, Don LaFontaine is long gone, God rest his soul. Boy, he ruined it for a lot of people because he used to just ride around in his limo. He'd go from studio to studio to studio, and people thought that's what it was, and it's not. But is it necessary to have different producers for different demos, or do you find one that can accomplish everything for you in one fell swoop?
I kind of think that's really a personal decision, because like Chuck Duran out here is an amazing demo producer, and he makes incredible promo demos. He makes incredible animation demos and e-learning demos as well as commercials. So I think it just kind of depends on you and what you want to spend and your relationship with that producer or whatever. I mean, it's really I think it's a personal decision. Some people do like that thought of going to different producers, and I really, that I don't think that there's no hard and fast rule with that at all. Don LaFontaine took a limo around because it was more of a pain in the butt to find parking.
Yes,
so
yes. LA has never changed.
Yeah.
LA has never ever changed.
He did that. It wasn't to be like, ostentatious or anything. It was just he could have somebody drive him around, and then he could hop out of the car, run into the studio, hop back in, they drive him to the next studio. So it was more convenience than,
he was great.
Than getting him stressed out,
I met him once at the Improv. He came in, and I was there sitting with Bud Friedman and some other people, and I met him once, and I was just listening to his voice. I've always been keen on voices and stuff like that. Is it advisable for someone to maybe start in one area of the voiceover business, say in narration or animation or hard sell, soft sell, or whatever, trailers, and then branch out as time goes on? If money is an object and you don't have a lot of it, is it easier to take smaller steps to try to get yourself going, to have a longevity, long legs in the business? Is that an advisable direction to go in for some?
The rule of thumb is kind of do your commercials first, because commercials are the bread and butter of the industry. Commercials are cast and produced every day. So they're always looking for, a voice for a commercial. Whereas, excuse me, an animation job or a video game voice or voices are only cast, hold on, sorry, a couple of times a month. And the first thing an agent's going to ask from you is, let me hear your commercial demo. So that's usually the first thing people always should do. But if there's somebody that all they ever wanted to do their whole life was animation, then go for it, But agents nowadays kind of want a whole package. They want to know that they're getting more bang for their buck, not just you're not only going to do animation, you're going to do commercials, and maybe you could also do, narrations as well, or whatever your specialty is.
Mary Lynn, if someone wanted to call you or get a hold of you at Voices Voice Casting, how do they go about that?
Sure. Our phone number is 818-963-8739, and the website is voicesvoicecasting.com. And there's you can email me through there, or it's voicesvoicecasting, one long word, at yahoo.com.
And you guys do casting, coaching, consulting. So when you walk in the door or you speak on the phone, they're going to kind of give you a lowdown of what's really going on. How about the thought process of doing some freebies at first, just to get some nice stuff on the reel that's not something that you just put together for an audition tape?
I'm not quite sure what you're saying.
Well, in other words, there are a lot of people that want you to do freebies. Okay, they know you don't have a lot of experience and they don't have a lot of money, so they say, hey, how about doing this for me for free? And this way it puts something on your reel for you. I know when I got started many, many years ago, I did a couple just to have something on my reel that wasn't an ad that I pulled from somewhere or wrote something for, to put on a reel.
Honestly, I don't know that much about that, because I feel
well,
like
I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of companies, that are mom and pops that can't pay a lot. I mean, they might give you $15 or $20 to do it, but what I'm basically saying is that when you first get started, you kind of have to take what you can get to get something on a reel to show how professional you are or aren't. I guess what I'm saying is wherever you can get the work, whether they pay you a lot of money or not.
I mean, if that's what you want to do, then, go ahead and people can do that for sure. But at the same time, I think that, you're then lowering the bar for your potential work. I mean, there's a whole, argument about that, and if you go on any voiceover form, it's you've invested in your career and you've set up your home studio, or even if you, right now just starting and you've got a makeshift studio in a closet or whatever, that's great. But, don't add insult to your talent by not getting paid for what you do. And sure, you can do things, at a low rate, but just know that, maybe make sure it's not something that's going to air on it's going to be broadcast, or, something that won't be a potential conflict down the road. It could really hurt you, getting an agent or something like that.
I know that you at Voices and Voice Casting have the Meet the Agents and Meet the Pro events. Is that an opportunity for your students and other colleagues or people that are ready to get to meet the producers and to get to meet the people that they need to meet? Because that's another door or hurdle that they need to cross, is now that you've put together the demo and it sounds pretty good, is to get it out into the right people's hands. Do you kind of help with these classes and with these seminars like that?
I started these Meet the Pros and Meet the Agent events about 8 years ago or so, because there wasn't anything really out there like that for voiceover people. I mean, every once in a while, an agent might guest at a workshop or something, but these are specifically for talent. You have to be here in LA to do it. To come in, you get to have a Q&A with the agent. They talk about their office, how they like to get demos, what they're looking for, what they might need, whatever, the protocol in their offices, or, their vision or whatever. And then the talent have an opportunity to perform a script. Each talent goes into the booth privately, so it's their one-on-one chance to perform a couple scripts, and they'll get direction and feedback and suggestions and such, and that's really nice. And then our Meet the Pros, we have our guest directors are casting directors from Disney or Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, or we'll have promo producers from the major networks come. I have video game casting people and directors, or audiobook publishers, or anybody that as a pro voice actor you would want to meet, that
Yes.
You can get insight into their expertise, their end of the business, and how to submit to them, or how to be on their radar. So they're kind of like they're networking opportunities as well as learning clinics. So they've been really, really effective and successful in hooking people up with the right people. So it's
cool.
Fun. It's really fun. Yeah.
You can also do this on the iPhone, iPad, Android, et cetera, et cetera. Boy, social media has really creeped into our life in so many ways. I'm telling you, it really, really has. Let's talk about something that I always found fascinating as an actor. Now, not necessarily as a voice actor, but as an actor, and I'm wondering if it does occur in voice casting, and I'm sure it must. You're casting for one project, okay, whatever it may be, because you work for a lot of the Fortune 500 companies, you and your company, Voices Voice Casting, and you hear a voice. But you also have another project over here. Now, you're not casting for that right now, but you hear this voice and you go, you're not right for this project, but boy, I think you're going to be right for this other thing that we're working on over here. Does that happen a lot?
Sure. I kind of, the way my ears work, I'm always like, it's funny, like when you tell me somebody's name, I think of the way they sound versus the way they look first, So my
God,
ear just goes that.
I wonder what you think of what I look like. My God.
My ear kind of just goes that way. I think of, okay, well, a person's sound. So lots of times, an actor might come in to audition for me. Maybe I haven't met them before, and I get them in the booth, and they left an impression like, oh, that guy was really interesting. And, I make little notes and I can go back and look at casting notes that I took, and I make certain notes to myself and the type of voice or the abilities or whatever. And then when another job comes up, I can go back and look at those previous castings and, kind of remember, oh, that guy would be awesome for this or whatever it was. So, yeah, I think that's part of my job as a casting director is, always have my radar up and
right.
my ears open and listening for voices. That's what I do.
We're talking to Mary Lynn Wissner, right? Did I get that right?
Wissner. Think of like whistle.
Yeah, Wissner from Voices Voice Casting in Los Angeles. And I guess I discovered you through Facebook or something. I tried to tried to send you the Facebook thing for the show tonight, for some reason didn't take it. So, but at any rate, how about mentoring along the way? I know that you not only coach and cast voices, but you also coach people. Do they come back to you sometimes when they're ready to do a project and say, gee, I need some help with this? Because I know every actor in the world, whether you're a voice actor or on screen, you reach sometimes some roadblocks where you need some help getting with the script over it or getting better prepared for it. It's not just because you've been a voice actor for 20 years that you know everything. Yeah, you know more than somebody else. But is mentoring a major part, would you say, of our business in general? Now, for me, Charlie Rose is my big hero. I'll never be sitting in Charlie's chair because 20 years from now when he's dead, they're still going to prop him up and he'll be asking questions. But I really mean that. I am.
I have a lot of students that, maybe started with me and then they've gone on and have been successful, but they'll come back to have a brusher up, a brush up course, or a private lesson, or sometimes it happens quite frequently where a talent will say, I've got this big audition, and they'll just sign up for maybe like a half-hour coaching session, or, for me to kind of help them through this audition that they, really want to nail. And then there's certain talent that, just we work really well together, and I've coached them through, getting it to the point of getting the demo done. I've worked with them on the demo, and then, helping them get an agent. And so it really is kind of dependent on the talent where they want to take that, and obviously if I can help them, I will.
Let's talk a little bit about your style of coaching. There's different styles of acting, so there's definitely probably different styles for voiceover. How do you approach students, and do you approach them differently depending upon who they are and what they're working towards, or do you just have a style that you go with?
Well, I think it's actually a good question. I think I mostly approach them kind of where they are in their career. If they're beginners, I don't do a lot of beginner work because if they're coaching with me, then they usually have already done some workshops. Because it's kind of hard to start with privates. Like, okay, here's where this is voiceover copy, it really, I think my style depends on where they are in their career. If they're fairly new, then I make sure, I teach what I call the foundation of commercials, commercial casting, this, popular directions, and I make sure they learn how to do those. And every actor really is going to have their own MO to get into a different direction. So I feel like that's kind of what our goal is to find what it takes for you to get into each specific direction, so that that will always be a call to action for you when you see that direction in a casting situation. So again, it's really tailored to, each particular talent.
What was the most fun you've ever had casting?
Oh, it's always fun. It's always fun because every day it's a different job. I mean, there's some days I don't cast, but one day I could be casting an animation series, a feature film, a fabulous History Channel project, or a really funny radio commercial, and that's what I love about it, because it's not the same every day. It's always different. And I love working with actors, and it's just so fun to have them in the booth. And even if I don't get to see them, if they send in the auditions to me, I love to hear them, and I just have a great time. I really, really, truly still love what I do. It's entertaining, and it's creative, and it's fulfilling. I've worked on some really great projects. One of my favorite was I've done a few things for History Channel, but I worked on one that I just loved. It was called The Color of War, and it was about all the color film and film, as well as photos during World War II. And each episode we had to cast about 38 voices per episode, because we had to get French people and German and American and Japanese, and they were all like, reenactments, like reading letters and real diary journal entries and things like that. So
I remember I sent a demo to and suddenly now his name escapes me, but you see him on PBS all the time, Ken Burns. And I heard back from him, but I didn't have a big enough name for him to want to put me as one of his voices just reading a letter or something like that. But he said, I love your stuff. But,
nice.
There are other avenues, as we discussed earlier in the program, Mary Lynn, where people can go. There's a company 123 out of Canada, I believe, and there are other companies like that where people can go online and find out about auditions, and those are subscription places, are they not?
Yeah, actually, Voice 123 is based out of Chile or Spain, I think. And Voices.com, which is not related to my company, is based out of Canada. And yeah, those are online casting sites where you pay a yearly subscription fee, and based on the information, you fill out a profile, and then based on, your profile information, the types of voices you can do and so on, they will send you copy. Not the greatest way to find bookings because, they'll take anybody's money.
Yeah.
But so there's a lot of people that are on those sites that really shouldn't even be thinking of themselves as voice talent. But there are lots of good people too. Mm-hmm. So if you're good, I believe the cream rises to the top. If you're good, you will get those bookings, and
mm-hmm.
You'll start to make a presence on there. But your odds of getting bookings are more difficult because you could be auditioning against 200 other people that got the same call.
That's what I didn't like about when I was in Las Vegas. I signed a exclusive, like a dummy, with a company that I won't mention their name, and I knew I made a terrible mistake, and I must have auditioned in a 2-month period 75 to 100 times and never got anything because, and this leads me into the next question, do producers in some cases have their favorites, and even though they listen to maybe a bunch of auditions, their favorites, the people they trust who've worked for them before, generally get the work unless something really extraordinary comes over them in front of them, with the voice and really knocks them on their feet?
There's a lot of producers I work with in the advertising industry that do have their favorites, but ultimately it's the client who decides. Mm-hmm. So they might have their favorites, and that person gets the opportunity to audition, but it doesn't mean they'll get the booking necessarily. Mm-hmm. But sometimes too, certain celebrities become, the prototype, the hot voice, the hot type. Mm-hmm. And, we get asked for, we need a Jeff Bridges type, or we need a, Susan Sarandon type voice or whatever. So types of voices are popular, for casting specs, as well from producers. So,
yeah.
I think you see more of the sort of favoritism type thing in like animation and video games, because the producers and directors, they're always more on a tighter schedule, and with those contracts, they can get you for 2 to 3 voices with one price. Mm-hmm. So they know, if they hire this certain individual, he's really multi-voiced and talented and can do anything. So, they have their favorites that they can rely on to do those kinds of things.
If you want to get into the voiceover business and you really want to get the lowdown and you want to find out if you're good at it and you have a chance to have some legs in the business, call Mary Lynn at Voices Voice Casting at 818-963-8739 or voicesvoicecasting.com. They will take you through the whole process. And let me tell you, I wish there was a company like yours around when I was knocking on the doors in LA, because it would have made it a whole lot easier, because that is part of the problem in show business in general. If you're going to be an actor, that's one thing, but just because you want to do it, you don't always necessarily know where to go and what to do when you get there. And sometimes you need somebody to grab you by the neck and say, here, this is what you got to do. This is the way you got to do it. And there's no shortcuts. There's, now, unless you're extraordinarily talented and you wake up with a great voice and you got a great read and you're multi-talented and you can do every facet of the business. And those are rare, as I'm sure you can attest to. But you need someone like Mary Lynn to help you get through things at Voices Voice Casting. Contact her. She's fabulous, and she's become a friend very quickly, although she'll never cast me, but that's okay. That's okay.
Because
well, no, I mean, I don't do anything. Do you guys teach the business side? Because here's my pet peeve. One of my closest friends in LA when I was out there was a gentleman named Tony Gary. He's still alive, but he's no longer on General Hospital. And Ken Schreiner is also a friend of mine. His brother Will and I, we all grew up in Fort Lauderdale together. Not Tony, but and I know he always used to tell the young kids, it's show business. Show is the size of a quarter, and the business is the size of a football field. And if you don't take care of business, there is no show. Do you guys help with the business end of it, teaching classes on that level?
Yes, because I agree with you. I think that's so important. And in the workshops that I do, I do like a working pros, kind of a workout group workshop. I teach that, and I think that it's very, very important to know, who the players are, how to invoice, how to market yourself. And mostly I do a lot of that too, because I feel like as a coach, my name goes out there with you. And as big as this community is, it's actually kind of small. So we all know who's doing what, and who's coaching and who's good, who's not, and so on. And, if you came from my place and somebody said, Mary Lynn didn't teach you that, I'd feel really badly, So I am very aware of teaching the business part of it as well. I think it's very important. And it's too competitive not to know this stuff. So I think it's, I'm a mom. I want my kids to feel, secure going out there in the world. I'm protective of students of mine. So, and there's lots of great coaches that are like that too.
I could never understand anybody wanting to get into the business, whether it's voiceover work or whether it's a stage actor or a film actor or what I do as a talk show host, or even for a while when I worked in the lookalike world as a Jay Leno impersonator. So now you know what I look like. And I really do. Jay and I have known each other for years. But that you don't find out everything you know the business from A to Z. And that's always troubled me when people come waltzing in and they just figure I'm blonde hair, blue eyed, and I'm good looking. And I did a couple of plays back home, or I did a commercial for my daddy's radio station. And now I'm ready for LA. And I've always said to people, and Mary Lynn, if I'm wrong, please correct it. LA is not the place to get it together if you're not from there. If you're from there, that's another story. But if you are not from there, LA is not the place to get it together in your head. You got to be mature and tackle it as a business. You can't go in there and figure you're just going to have fun and it's Party Town USA. You're going nowhere, and you're going to be on a bus home before you know it. Yeah,
it's too competitive. I mean, obviously you can be here and learn, and some people live here, but it's too competitive to not learn everything you can, ask all the questions you can. And honestly, there's too much information out there that you can't say you couldn't, because like I said, there's so many like voiceover forums on Facebook and meetup groups in pretty much all the major cities. You just can look up a social group, like a meetup group, that people that do voiceovers. There's support groups in most of the major cities as far as like online, and there's some just really great resources even on YouTube and such. Right. So I think that to come here and not say you didn't know, you didn't learn, is really not really giving yourself that chance to learn, because again, the internet is such an incredible tool. And one day I just looked around on YouTube and I couldn't believe all the voiceover tutorials I saw on there. Yeah. It doesn't mean they're all great, but most of them are pretty good. Yeah,
but I think it's also important, like you said, there's groups where you can get together. It's like before I got with the Groundlings, there were improv groups that I studied with. There were teachers I studied with. And when I was at Berghoff's in New York, I had Charles Nelson Riley as one of my instructors. I mean, I've been very, very fortunate. Of course, I grew up with a casting director in my own backyard. I went to high school and middle school with her son. So I was learning how to be an extra and pulling cable. And I mean, I learned the business from the bottom up. And that's what I've always attended to. I know my dad, who was an airline captain, he learned how to fly an airplane from the bottom up. As a talk show host, I went through stumbling a lot of coming up with questions and learning how to process things. So if this is going to be your career, I would think you'd want to give it everything you got, learn everything you can, so nobody can pull the wool over your eyes, because let's face it, everybody will try.
Yep. Yeah. But, I do have to say, the voiceover community really is a nice group of people. They really are. And I have found so many people that are so wonderful about wanting to help you and being kind about it and generous. So of a lot of sides of the business, and I've been on many sides and seen many sides and experienced many sides, the voiceover community really is quite lovely. There's a competition, sure, but everybody's different. So I think if it's something you really want to do, you'll find your way.
Yeah. What's the best advice you ever got from your dad, and what's the best advice that you have given out?
The best advice I got from my dad was you be nice to everybody in this industry, because today's receptionist is tomorrow's head of the company, is tomorrow's president of the studio. Yeah. And then, that's the thing I always tell people is, be kind, because, it doesn't help you get anywhere by being mean or being a bully, and I don't mean just in voiceovers, I just mean in life.
Yes. Yeah. Best advice you give out to students?
Same thing, be persistent, don't give up, do your homework, and be kind.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I first moved to LA, my roommate worked at A&M Records, which is the old Charlie Chaplin studios. I don't know how far your casting company is from there, but I used to go at 1:00 in the morning to Pink's, and every celebrity in the world would be at Pink's. Now, we'd all be sick as a dog by 4 a.m, but you'd find Lucille Ball there. You'd see all the actors there, and I would learn from them. I would talk to them. And I remember Lucille Ball said to me once, she said, "Honey, if you're nice to people, they'll be nice to you and if they're not, you don't want to know them anyway."
Yeah.
So where is the casting world going now? Where's the coaching? Where's the voiceover work? What's the new social media thing that's going to come along that's going to propel voiceovers into a new direction?
Wow, I don't know. I was just at Voiceover Atlanta, and there was, talk of, I forget the term, but, where your voice can, what's kind of happening now, with the things like Alexa and, Siri, things like that. But, there's so many things that they use the voice for, whether it be learning, e-learning things, or IVR, which is, what Siri is and things like that, audiobooks. So I think the opportunities and the potential is out there for everything and anything. Video games are the highest grossing form of entertainment right now. So, it's you kind of find what you want to do, and then if you are passionate enough about it, you'll find a way to get it done.
If this is something you want to do, folks, contact Mary Lynn at Voices Voice Casting, 818-963-8739, or go to the web at voicesvoicecasting.com. She will give you everything, and you have other instructors there too that will answer anybody's questions. And our hour is just about up, and I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, young lady, for coming on board. You are the best. I wish I lived in LA, because I'd come to your office every day and I'd bug you for work. But thank God I don't, because after a while you'd say, I really don't need this stalker guy named Gary Allen coming in here every day and bugging me. But if there's anything you'd like to, by the way, one last question. What have you learned about yourself through this entire process of in front of the camera, casting, coaching? What have you learned about yourself that you can impart upon my audience about the world of VOs?
What have I learned about myself? I learned that I really love to nurture, and I love to see people succeed. It makes me so happy when I've kind of worked with a student and, watch them come up and suddenly I'm getting emails. I just got my second booking, or I just booked an animation series, and it makes me so proud and so happy. So I find that very rewarding, and I love to nurture new talent. And when, every once in a while you find that diamond in the rough, and to see them succeed. It's so fun. It's just, I love that. It makes me really happy.
Well,
and I'm not sick of it after all these years. I really look at every day. I get excited. What's coming in today? What's going on today? Who am I working with today? What's their story?
Well, I want to thank you again for taking the time out of your day to join us here on The Express.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, listen, it's been a pleasure, and I probably am going to have you on my other show, which will be starting this coming Monday, which is here at my local radio station where I work now. I'm getting my own show there besides what I do on the podcast, and I'll probably have you back too, because I think what you do is pretty darn cool, and I think you're a pretty neat lady, and I'm so grateful to you to take the time out of your day to join us, and I'm just going to say thank you and have a good night.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and thank you to all your listeners. And we'll talk soon.
Yes, I probably will call you in 5 minutes. You never know.
Okay, bye.
I'm all right. Hey, folks, I just want to thank everybody for joining us here tonight on The Express. Again, just a reminder, you can catch me on Facebook at Gary Allen. You can also go to youtube.com, Gary Allen, The Express. This program will repeat itself on Thursday night at 7 p.m. on diversitybroadcastnetwork.com. Go to progressivevoices.com if you're riding around in your car. Go to the Demand Channel or one of their apps. And yes, I have some exciting news to share with you. I kind of let a little bit out right there, but I will give you furthermore instructions on how that's going and what's going on with that. And I'm very excited about that program. And EW, thank you back in the studio for taking care of all the buttons and whistles and bells, etc. And thank you all very much for taking a few minutes out of your day to join me, Gary Allen, here on The Express. Until next week, take care of yourselves and each other.
You've been listening to The Express with Gary Allen. Join us here every Tuesday night at 10 for more captivating talk with Gary Allen. See you next time on The Express.